The sky above the dead moon was filled with smoke. It twisted and moved like black waves, blocking the stars. Caleb walked slowly through the wreckage, his boots crunching on burnt metal and glass. He held a small torch in one hand and a scanner. In the other, his ship had picked up a distress signal. But the source was broken and weak. Now, he was here, alone, in the middle of what used to be an alien outpost. He looked around carefully. Parts of ships were scattered everywhere. A wall still burned on one side, throwing a soft orange glow. On the ground, there was no sound, no wind, no life. It felt like the whole place was holding its breath, waiting for something. Caleb's scanner gave a short beep. He turned his head, following the signal. It wasn't coming from a building. But from deep inside the ruins, he moved closer, stepping over melted beams and crushed boxes. Then he heard it, a soft, repeating sound like metal tapping against metal. Clink, clink, clink. It was quiet, almost too soft to notice. He turned off the scanner and followed the sound instead. Behind a half-collapsed wall, he found a cage. It was shaped like a pod, half sunken into the dirt, with bars made of some glowing alloy, and inside that cage, sitting on the ground with her knees pulled up to her chest, was a girl. She wasn't human. But she wasn't like any other alien Caleb had seen either. Her skin was a soft, silver color, with pale markings like vines running down her arms. Her eyes were large and glowed faintly violet in the firelight. Long white hair fell over her face, and a chain hung from her ankle. She didn't cry, didn't speak, just watched him silently. Clink, clink. She was tapping the chain against the floor with one finger. Not to call for help, but maybe to remind herself that she was still there. Still alive. Caleb stood still. He didn't know what to say. He had seen prisoners before, but this was different. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. But more than that, she looked like someone who had already given up. He stepped closer, carefully. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said quietly. The girl blinked slowly. Then she did something that shocked him. She spoke. "Please," she said, in clear but weak English, just one word. Caleb knelt beside the cage. "Who did this to you?" he asked. She didn't answer, just stared at the lock. He followed her gaze. The lock was old, cracked, and covered in soot. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small tool. "This might hurt your eyes," he said, turning the torch away. The lock sparked as he worked. She didn't move, didn't even flinch. After a few seconds, the lock clicked open. He dropped it to the side and slowly opened the cage door. She didn't run, she didn't jump forward or thank him. She just looked at him silent, unsure. He held out his hand, palm up. She looked at it, then at his face. Her hand was shaking as she reached out and touched his. Her skin was cold, like snow. He helped her up slowly. She could barely stand. But she leaned on him as he wrapped a thin emergency blanket around her shoulders. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then said softly, "Alira." Caleb nodded. "I'm Caleb, I'm human," he said. "And you're safe now?" She didn't answer. But she didn't let go of his hand either. He helped her out of the ruins, back toward his small ship parked nearby. The fire behind them still burned, but in that moment, under the dark sky and broken stars, the only thing that mattered was that she was free. But Caleb knew better. Freedom came at a price, and someone, whoever caged her, was going to come looking. Caleb's ship was small, but it was warm and safe. The lights inside were soft, the walls smooth and quiet. Alira sat on the medical bed, wrapped in the same emergency blanket. Her skin still looked pale, but some color had returned to her cheeks. She hadn't said much, but her eyes never left Caleb. He moved carefully, setting a warm drink in front of her. "It's not food," he said with a small smile, "but it'll help your body catch up." Alira looked at the cup, then at him again. Slowly, she reached Out and took it with both hands. I won't force you to speak, Caleb said, sitting across from her. But if you want to tell me anything. I'm listening. Alira stared into the drink like it held her memories. Then, after a long silence, she spoke. I was taken. She said quietly, sold, kept, moved from place to place. Caleb leaned forward, listening carefully. Do you know who did it? He asked. Not by name, she said. They wore masks, always masks. She closed her eyes and whispered, my people. They are not many, not anymore. What are your people called? Caleb asked. Alira opened her eyes and looked at him directly. Niari, she said, we lived in the quiet places. Hidden from war, from greed. But one day, they came with ships and fire. Her voice trembled, and her hands tightened around the cup. I ran, but they found me, she said. They said I was special, rare, that I could be sold for more than the price of a starship. I was 12 years old. Caleb felt his jaw tighten. He had heard of slave trades, black market auctions, but hearing it from her lips, so calm and broken, made it feel different, real. You've been in that cage since then? He asked. She nodded. Years, she whispered. I don't know how many. He shook his head. No one deserves that, he said firmly. You're free now. And I'll keep it that way. Alira looked at him with something new in her eyes. A flicker of trust, maybe, or hope. Caleb stood up and walked to the control panel. He opened the navigation map and set a course to a neutral station. Once we reach Orion Station 3. We can figure out what to do next, he said. They've got medical, food, safe zones. Alira stood slowly and walked to the window. Outside, stars floated in the dark like quiet eyes. I don't know where I belong anymore. She said softly, my world is gone. My kind. Scattered or dead, Caleb turned toward her. You belong wherever you choose to stand, he said, even if it's not where you came from. A faint smile touched her lips. It was small, but it was the first one he had seen from her. Suddenly, a red light blinked on the console. Caleb's smile dropped. The ship had picked up something movement behind them. A fast signal, too fast for space junk. He tapped the scanner. One ship, closing in. He said. Alira stepped back from the window, her eyes wide. They found me, she said. Her voice trembling. Caleb grabbed the controls. No transponder ID, no call signal, he said. Whoever they are, they don't want to talk. They just want you back. He turned the ship sharply. Speeding into the asteroid field nearby, the chasing ship followed, matching their moves. Laser pulses lit up the darkness. Missing by inches, Alira gripped the wall, trying to stay on her feet. Hold on, Caleb said. We're not letting them take you again. He pulled the ship into a narrow gap between two large rocks. The enemy ship followed, but clipped its wing on the edge of a stone. It spun out for a moment. Just long enough, Caleb hit the boost and shot forward, leaving them behind. After a few minutes, the danger light faded. They were clear for now, but Caleb's face was tight with worry. That was a tracker ship, he said. Not military, not government private, fast and dangerous. They were hired to bring you back, dead or alive. Alira sat down slowly. Shaking, they won't stop, she whispered. They never do. Caleb knelt in front of her. I've made enemies before, he said. I'm not afraid of doing it again. Alira looked at him, eyes filled with a new emotion. Not just fear, but a question. Why are you helping me? She asked. You don't even know me. Caleb didn't look away, because when I saw you in that cage, he said, I saw someone who had been forgotten by everyone else, but I didn't forget. A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. I've never had someone speak like that to me. She said, not since my mother. Caleb gave her a small nod. You're not alone anymore, he said, not while I'm breathing. And as the ship moved deeper, Into the stars, Alira looked out the window again, for the first time. She let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she had a future again. The stars outside looked calm, but Caleb knew the peace wouldn't last. Someone had found them once. They would try again. He sat in the pilot's chair, eyes fixed on the screen. His fingers moved over the controls, checking fuel, shields, and weapons. Beside him, Alira sat quietly, watching. She still wore the blanket, and her eyes looked tired. But there was strength growing inside her, bit by bit. "We'll reach Orion Station 3 in 2 days, Caleb said. "If we don't get shot at again." Alira nodded slowly. "They will come again," she said. "They always do." Caleb glanced at her. "You said you were sold," he said. "Do you know who bought you?" She hesitated, then spoke. "Not a person," she said. "A group, secret, dangerous. They collect rare species, keep them, trade them, study them. They called me a treasure, not a person." Caleb's jaw tightened. "You're not a thing," he said, "and they're going to regret treating you like one." Later that night, Alira stood in the back room of the ship. She stared at her reflection in the metal wall. Her face looked thinner, older than she remembered. But something had changed. She no longer looked lost. She reached into the small locker Caleb gave her and pulled out a plain shirt. It didn't fit perfectly, but it was clean. She folded the blanket and placed it aside. Then she stepped out, walking toward the control room. Couldn't sleep. Caleb asked without turning. Alira sat beside him, her voice quiet. "I don't want to dream," she said. "Dreams take me back to cages." They sat in silence for a while. Then the scanner beeped. Caleb's eyes narrowed. No signal. "No ID," he said. "Another ghost ship." He tapped the screen, zooming in. A dark vessel floated near the edge of an asteroid belt. Too still, too quiet. "It's a trap," he said. "Will we run?" Alira asked. "Not yet." Caleb replied, "We'll trick them first." He changed course and powered down the main engine. Then sent out a fake emergency signal. "Mayday, ship damaged, need help." It read. He turned off the lights inside and made the ship look dead. They waited, holding their breath. After 10 minutes, the ghost ship moved. It glided toward them slowly, lights flashing like hungry eyes. "Now," Caleb whispered. He flipped a hidden switch, and the ship powered up again. Engines roared. Shields flared, weapons charged. Before the enemy could react, Caleb fired too. Ion bursts. The ghost ship shook, spinning slightly. Then it fired back. A beam slicing through space. The ship rocked and alarms blared. Alira fell, and Caleb caught her arm, pulling her back to her seat. "We're faster," he said. "We just have to stay alive long enough to prove it." The chase was brutal. Lasers lit up the dark like lightning. Asteroids exploded as the ships darted through narrow gaps. Caleb dodged left, then right, his hands moving fast. Alira gripped the sides of her seat. Eyes wide, she whispered something. Under her breath, words in her language, it sounded like a prayer, or maybe a spell. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The engine made a strange sound. "We took a hit in the rear panel," Caleb said. Losing power, Alira stood, her eyes glowing faintly. "I can help," she said. "I know how to transfer energy." Caleb looked confused. "How?" He asked. "Niari blood holds energy." She said, "It's how we heal, how we protect." Before he could stop her, she pressed her palm to the ship's core panel. Her body glowed softly, and the lights around them brightened. The engine roared back to full life. Caleb stared in shock. "You're a living battery," he said. Alira smiled weakly. "Only for a short time," she said. "I must rest after." Caleb turned back to the controls. With full power, he pushed the ship faster. The enemy tried to follow but crashed into an asteroid wall. It exploded in a silent flash. The ship shook slightly. then fell still. Only the sound of their breathing remained. Alira collapsed too. The floor, Caleb rushed to her side and lifted her gently. Her skin was warm now, glowing dimly like fading fire. "I'm okay," she whispered, "just tired." He carried her to the bed and placed a pillow under her head. "You saved us," he said. She smiled softly, eyes half closed. "You freed me," she whispered. "I can return the gift." Caleb sat beside her until she fell asleep. Then he walked back to the controls. He knew this was only the beginning. Whoever was hunting Alira would come harder next time. But now he also knew something else. Alira wasn't just a girl in a cage. She was powerful, and someone, somewhere, wanted to use that power, no matter the cost. As the ship sailed silently through the stars, Caleb made a promise in his heart. He would protect her, no matter what it took. The stars outside looked peaceful, but inside the ship, tension filled the air like smoke. Alira still slept. Breathing slow and soft, Caleb sat nearby, watching over her like a silent guard. He couldn't shake the image of her standing before the energy panel. How her skin had glowed, how the lights had answered her touch. She wasn't just rare, she was powerful. And now he knew why they wanted her back so badly. He tapped the ship's computer and began searching, not through public data, but old pirate logs and black market records. He searched for anything related to the Niar. After hours of silence, the screen blinked. Niar classified as forbidden species by Central Trade Council. Reason: genetic energy manipulation. Risk of planetary influence. Captured Niar individuals must be reported immediately. Caleb leaned back, eyes wide. "She's dangerous to them," he muttered. Because they can't control her, footsteps made him turn. Alira stood in the doorway. Pale but awake, she wore one of his shirts and walked slowly. "I felt your worry," she said, "like heat in the walls. You were labeled forbidden." Caleb said, "Because of your blood." She nodded. "Our energy connects to life itself," she said. "We can heal." "Or destroy," Caleb frowned. "But you don't want to hurt anyone." He said, "No," she whispered. "That's why they fear me." She sat beside him, her hands resting on her knees. "They tested my limits," she said. "They tried to make me heal machines, fuel ships. They called it science, but it felt like pain." Caleb clenched his fists. He stood and began pacing. "They'll never stop," he said. "Even if we run, even if we hide. I don't want to run anymore," Alira said. Her voice was steady now. "If they want me, let them come." Caleb looked at her, surprised. "You're ready to fight?" he asked. "I'm ready to live," she answered, "and no one will cage me again." Suddenly, the alarm beeped. Another ship closing in, but this one was broadcasting a signal. Not hostile, but unknown. Caleb opened the channel. "This is Dr. Rin from Orion Station 3, a calm voice said. "We received your emergency transmission and offer medical support." Alira tensed. "Do not trust them," she said. Caleb looked at her. "They may help," he said. "Or they may betray us." She nodded slowly. "Then we go together," she said. Caleb gave permission for the ship to dock. A few minutes later, two figures stepped aboard. One was a woman, with silver hair and dark eyes, Dr. Rin. The other was a tall man with a scanner in hand. Dr. Rin smiled gently. "We're here for medical help only," she said. "We detected strange energy levels from your ship." Caleb didn't answer. Alira stepped forward. "It was me," she said. "I used my blood to power the ship." Dr. Rin looked at her closely. "You're Niari," she said softly. "You shouldn't exist anymore." "I do," Alira replied, "and I'm not hiding." Dr. Rin didn't move. But the tall man behind her suddenly raised a weapon. Caleb moved fast, pulling his own blaster and pointing it back. "Bad idea," he said, coldly. Dr. Rin sighed. "Lower your weapons," she told the man. He hesitated, then obeyed. "I had to be sure," she said. Many would pay planets for a living Niar. Alira looked at her sharply. "Are you one of them?" Dr. Rin shook her head. "No," she said. "I studied your kind when I was young. I believe your people were misunderstood, hunted unfairly. Why are you here then?" Caleb asked. "To help." She replied, "To hide you, if needed." Caleb lowered his weapon slowly. Alira relaxed a little. Dr. Rin stepped closer and scanned Alira's body. "You've overused your energy," she said. "Your cells are tired. I'll heal," Alira said simply. Dr. Ren smiled. "Yes, you will," she said. "But you need a safe place." She handed Caleb a small chip. "This is a location," she said. "Old research colony, abandoned now. No one will look for you there." Caleb took the chip. "Why help us?" he asked. Dr. Rin looked at Alira. "Because she could change everything," she said. If the galaxy knew what the Nayari really were, there might be peace again. After they left, Caleb turned to Alira. "What do you think?" he asked. Alira touched the chip. "I think she told the truth," she said. "But we can't stay there forever." "We won't," Caleb said. "But it's a start." He entered the coordinates and set the ship on a new path as they flew toward the unknown colony. Caleb felt the weight of 1,000 questions. What would they do if the whole galaxy came hunting again? What would happen if others like Alira were still out there? He didn't know the answers, but he knew this. He would never leave her side, not while she still had the fire of freedom in her blood. The research colony was deep in a quiet system. It floated between dead planets and forgotten rocks. There were no lights, no signals, no visitors. Just silence and dust. Caleb landed the ship gently on the cracked platform. The station looked empty, but still strong. He and Alira stepped out, their boots echoing in the quiet. She looked around with curious eyes. "There's pain here," she whispered, "but also peace." They walked through old halls, past broken doors and frozen screens. Eventually, they found a working chamber, small but safe. Caleb brought in supplies, while Alira cleaned the floor with soft cloths. It wasn't home, but it would do for the next few days. They stayed hidden. Alira rested, her strength returning. She started to laugh sometimes, even smile. She planted seeds in old soil pods and watched them grow with gentle hands. Her energy healed more than just her body. It brought life back into the empty place. But peace never lasted long. Caleb returned from a supply run one morning. His face was tight, eyes hard. He placed a small holoscreen on the table and pressed play. A red image appeared, a bounty message. "Wanted, human male, traveling with illegal Niari female, reward 900,000 units, live preferred." Dead accepted. A picture of Caleb's face glowed on the screen. Alira's name wasn't even used, just the label. SPCIA Manche stared at the message. Her hands shaking. "They put a price on you," she whispered. "They're not coming for me. They're coming for you now." Caleb smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Let them come," he said. "I'm not scared of people who hide behind money, but this means bounty hunters," Alira said. "Desperate ones. Cruel ones." Caleb nodded. "I've dealt with their kind before," he said. "But now we fight for more than our lives. We fight for truth." Alira stood tall. "Then teach me," she said. "Teach me to fight too." Over the next few days, Caleb trained her. He showed her how to aim a blaster, how to move quietly. But more importantly, he taught her how to stay calm, how to read danger. She was quick to learn, faster than he expected. She could already sense life, feel energy through walls. Sometimes she warned Caleb before danger came. Other times, she simply stood beside him, glowing with power. Then, on the 6th night, the silence broke. A small ship landed outside without warning. Its engines were quiet, its signal hidden. Caleb and Alira watched from the shadows. Weapons ready, 3 bounty hunters stepped out. One wore red armor, tall and cruel-looking. One was thin and pale. Holding 2 sharp knives, the third was a massive alien with 4 arms and no face visible under the helmet. They split up, Alira whispered. I feel them moving toward us. Caleb nodded. Stay behind me unless I tell you to run, he said. I won't leave you, she replied firmly. The first bounty hunter found the hallway entrance. He raised a weapon, ready to fire, but Caleb was faster. A shot rang out, and the hunter dropped to the floor. The second came through a side door. Slashing with blades, Caleb blocked one, but the other cut his arm. Before the thin hunter could strike again, Alira raised her hand. A flash of light burst from her skin. The hunter froze, shaking, then fell backward, stunned by raw energy. The last bounty hunter crashed through the ceiling. Roaring, he grabbed Caleb and threw him across the room. Alira screamed, her eyes turning bright white. She stepped forward, glowing like a sun. The massive alien turned toward her, but stopped, confused, afraid. Then, slowly, he dropped his weapon and knelt. Caleb coughed and stood up, bleeding but alive. What happened? He asked. Alira breathed hard, still shining. He saw what I am, she said softly. Not a weapon, not a prize, but a force. The alien said nothing, just backed away and left the building. The other 2 hunters were unconscious. Caleb leaned against the wall, smiling despite the pain. You scared him without even touching him, he said. Alira helped him sit down. I didn't want to kill, she said, but I won't be silent anymore. They treated Caleb's wounds and cleaned the chamber. Outside, the dead night returned, but they knew more would come. Still, something had changed. Alira had faced violence. Sand refused to be broken. She had protected Caleb as he once protected her, and now they both understood something deeper. This fight wasn't just for survival. It was a war between those who saw others as property and those who believed in freedom. The air in the colony had changed. The attack was over, but a warning remained. Caleb knew more hunters would come, and this time they would not make the mistake of underestimating Alira. She stood at the center of the old control room, glowing faintly in the shadows. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with fire. I want to end this, she said. I don't want to keep hiding. Caleb stepped forward, his arm wrapped in bandages. You mean to fight them? He asked. No, she said. I want to stop them where they begin. I want to break their chain from the inside. Caleb looked at her, surprised. You know where they are? Alira nodded slowly. When I was moved between ships, I saw a place, she said. A trade station in deep space, hidden behind nebulous storms. They called it the core. Caleb frowned. That's a myth, he said. No map shows it, no record confirms it. That's why it works. She replied. They sat at the ship's console, plotting a new course. It would be dangerous, filled with false signals and deadly storms. But Caleb didn't hesitate. He had seen too much to turn back now. 2 days later, their ship entered the edge of the storm. Thunder rolled in silence through space. Electric clouds flashed outside the windows. Alira placed her hand on the ship's control crystal. Her energy guided them through the storm like a light in the dark. When they came out the other side, they saw it, a massive structure floating like a shadow. Lights blinked across its surface, and ships flew in and out like bees from a hive. This was the core. Caleb narrowed his eyes. If we go in, there's no going back. I don't want to go back, Alira said. They hid their ship among transport vessels and entered through a maintenance port. Caleb wore a trader's coat, and Alira covered her face with a dark hood. The halls were loud and crowded, full of voices in many alien tongues. Bounty boards glowed on every wall, and somewhere among them, Caleb's face was still wanted. They walked slowly, blending in. Alira led the way, following something only she could feel. "I remember the hall," she whispered, "down this path." And then through that gate, they reached a dark tunnel guarded by 2 armored men. Caleb stopped and looked around. "How do we get in?" he asked. "I don't need doors," Alira said quietly. She stepped forward and raised her hand. The walls pulsed, and the lights above flickered. The guards blinked, confused. Then stepped aside like sleepwalkers. Caleb followed her, amazed. They moved deeper into the core until they reached a circular chamber. In the center stood a high cage, glowing with strange light. And inside another Nyari girl, younger than Alira, her eyes full of fear. Alira gasped. "She's real," she whispered. "I'm not the only one." A voice echoed from above, cold and proud. "Well, well, the escaped jewel returns." From the upper floor, a figure stepped into view. A man with silver skin and black robes, eyes sharp like glass. "You know me?" he said. Alira stared at him. "You were the one who ordered my capture." He smiled. "And now I'll complete the collection." Caleb raised his weapon. "Not today," he said, but before he could fire, 10 guards rushed in from every side, weapons drawn. Blocking every exit, the man stepped closer. "Your powers are strong," he said to Alira. "But they are raw, untamed. I can help you become more." "I don't want more," she said. "I want freedom. Freedom has a price," he replied. "Your kind can't survive alone, but with me your legacy lives." Alira looked at the young girl in the cage. Then she turned to Caleb. He gave a small nod. "Whatever you choose," he said, "I'm with you." Alira closed her eyes. When she opened them, her body shone like a rising star. The guards hesitated, blinded by light. Then she raised her hands, and the air trembled. The lights shattered, the walls cracked, and the control devices broke. The cage around the girl melted like wax. The young Nyari ran to Alira and grabbed her hand. "Run," Alira whispered. Caleb led the way, shooting as they moved. Alarms blared across the station as they reached their ship. More bounty hunters chased them. Alira turned back and threw a wave of energy down the hall. It lifted the floor and pushed the attackers away like leaves in a storm. They launched the ship and broke through the storm again. The core disappeared behind them, damaged, exposed, and no longer secret. In the quiet after the storm, the young Nyari girl finally spoke. "My name is Selah," she said softly. Alira held her hand. "You're safe now," she whispered. Caleb looked at them both. "We didn't end them all," he said. "But we showed the galaxy that you're not alone." Alira nodded. "Yes," she said. "And now others will rise too." The ship moved quietly through deep space. Outside the windows, the stars blinked like tiny promises. Inside, Caleb sat in the pilot's chair, eyes focused on the dark ahead. Beside him sat Alira, calm but alert, her hand resting gently on the shoulder of the young Nyari girl, Selah. They had escaped the core, but the galaxy would not forget what had happened. Caleb had leaked the data from the station, footage of Nyari children in cages. Reports of illegal trading, voices of suffering. It had spread fast, like fire through dry fields. The bounty on Caleb's head had grown. But so had something else support. Messages poured in from strangers across space, some offering shelter, some promising help, some just writing the words, "Thank you." In the quiet room, Alira leaned closer to Caleb. "Did you ever think it would come to this?" she asked. Caleb smiled faintly. "I thought I was just answering a signal," he said. "I didn't know I was walking into a war." Alira looked at him, her eyes shining with warmth. "You changed everything," she whispered. "No," he said, turning to her. "We changed it together." Selah sat nearby, humming a tune from her world. Her voice was soft, but her smile was bright. She was free now and she believed in the future again. A light blinked on the console. Caleb tapped it, and a message appeared. It was from Dr. Rin. "We've found others." It read, "More. Nyari in hiding, some too scared to speak, some too weak to run, but alive," Alira gasped. Placing a hand over her mouth, "They survived," she said, tears rising in her eyes. "My people." "They're still out there," Caleb nodded. "We're going to find them," he said. "We'll bring them home, but where is home now?" Selah asked softly. Alira paused for a moment, then answered. "Home is not a place," she said. "It's where we're free to grow, to love, to live without fear. Then we make it ourselves." They changed course again, this time toward a green world on the edge of mapped space. It was quiet, full of mountains, forests, and fresh water, once a farming colony, now abandoned. Perfect for a beginning. When the ship landed, Alira stepped out first. The wind touched her face, and the sunlight made her skin glow softly. Selah followed, laughing as her feet touched real grass for the first time. Caleb stood behind them, watching the two alien girls smile in peace. Over the next days, they built shelters, gathered food, and cleaned the old buildings. Alira used her energy to bring life back to the soil. Flowers bloomed, trees straightened, and water became clear. The place began to feel like more than just land. It began to feel like hope. Soon, other ships arrived. Some carried Nyari children, others brought families from different planets. All had one thing in common. They had been running, hiding, waiting. Now they had a place to stand. Alira stood in front of them all one evening. Her voice calm, but strong. "No one here belongs to anyone," she said. "We are not cargo, not property, not power to be used. We are people land. We rise together." Cheers rose from the crowd, and Caleb stood at her side, proud and quiet. Later, under the stars, Alira and Caleb sat by a small fire. She leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. He didn't move, didn't speak, just let the silence say what words could not. "I used to dream of cages," she said, "of chains, of cold floors and empty nights. But now, I dream of trees and stars and your voice calling my name." Caleb turned to her. "You're not a prisoner anymore," he said. "You're the heart of a new world." She smiled, then reached into her pocket and took out a small, broken chain. The same one from her cage. She dropped it into the fire, and the metal melted slowly. "Let it burn," she said. "It's no longer part of me." Selah ran up to them with a flower in her hand. "I found this near the stream," she said, handing it to Alira. It opened in the sun. Alira took the flower and held it gently. "It's beautiful," she said, "just like you, Caleb." Watched them both, feeling something deep in his chest. Not just relief or pride, something warmer, something unbreakable. He looked up at the stars, then back at Alira. "What now?" he asked. She met his gaze and whispered, "Now we build."